So it's been 2 weeks, I think, since my last Sacred Spaces that I did, my video Sacred Spaces. I thought, being Easter week, Holy Week, I wanted to do an Easter message for you, and I was looking for the most perfect setting. And there is Bow Brick Hill Woods just outside my house, like a kilometer away, maybe 2 kilometers away. So I took my bike, rode here, found this natural log. You can see I'm sitting on a natural log. Do you see it? Yeah. And there's my notes for today's message. Thank you for tuning in. Let me just tilt this a bit better for you. Yeah, that's perfect. Just back a bit so you can see. So, Holy Week, very different one for us, right? Normally there's a whole bunch of church services going on, and we go to the church building. We might find a rhythm of prayer that we do. There's normally a whole lot of services, maybe like morning prayers, and then Easter services in the evening. Tonight would be Tenebrae service. Tomorrow's Good Friday service, and then Easter service, Easter Sunday service, maybe even a sunrise service. All of that seems to have changed, and thankfully, this lockdown, this coronavirus, kind of happens when we've got the technology to be online and stay connected a little bit. It's been really cool to see the creativity and how churches are being innovative with social media and stuff like that. I've seen such fun, creative stuff, and at the same time, I think I shared that last time, is to just filter in all the stuff. Go online once, maybe twice a day max, but only a certain time. You can be smothered and bogged down by technology and online presence and just the information overload. But anyway, enough about that. My favorite verse, I think maybe my favorite verse for this year, I guess, for Easter, is the Centurion, who says in Mark 15 verses 39, he says, as Jesus dies, the Centurion says, "Surely this man is the Son of God." Isn't that such a beautiful line of worship and a beautiful declaration of who Jesus is? Just one line by the Centurion. He was there for work, and he sees the way Jesus dies, and he says, "Surely this man is the Son of God." That's Mark 15:39. Go read the account over there. But what I wanted to say was, he could declare something like that because he saw the way Jesus died. It was a regular day of work for him. It was a regular shift for Centurion, and he didn't realize that on that day, when he would go to work, he didn't realize he would meet Jesus, that he would be arrested by the grace of God, by just seeing the way Jesus died. And he would have been changed forever. I think that moment, we don't know the rest of the Centurion story, but he maybe goes home, tells his wife, "Man, my life's changed. I met Jesus. I met the Son of God. I saw him die on a cross, and it did something to me." But I was wondering, what would the Centurion have seen that day in watching how Jesus died? Well, he would have seen how Jesus showed forgiveness. Remember that part in the cross where Jesus says, and the soldiers are mocking him, they're casting lots for his clothes, and Jesus looks at the soldier and says, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they're doing." Isn't that beautiful? And then the Centurion sees how Jesus deals with the criminals. There's 2 criminals hanging next to them, and they deserve their punishment. And Jesus says to the one guy, "Today you'll be in paradise." Such a beautiful moment of grace. But Jesus doesn't engage in anger. He doesn't respond with aggression. So the Centurion's just watching this. And then when the Centurion would have seen Jesus speaking to Mary and John and said, you remember that part where Jesus says to Mary, "Behold your son John," and John, "Behold your mom Mary." In a sense, he's asking John to look after his mom. Like, such compassion from the cross. And that's just beautiful to see. And then when Jesus breathes his last, he says, "It is finished," and sighs and dies. And oh man, I could just imagine the holiness of that moment and the heartbreak of that moment. But that's what the Centurion saw. And he saw the way Jesus died, and he could declare, "Surely this man is the Son of God." Then I was thinking, well, we have a big advantage. We as believers, or anyone who approaches the Bible for the first time, we get to see the whole story. We get to see how Jesus reacts, not just his death. We see his whole life, and perhaps these are some of the things we would remember or have read or someone told us about. Jesus healed people. We see in the Gospels how Jesus heals people, his healing touch. Then we see the kindness of Jesus, his presence in people's lives. I think of the shortest verse in the scriptures, John 11, verse 35. Jesus wept. Jesus' heart was broken. Jesus was sad. Jesus had emotions. Jesus connected with us human beings. And then imagine being there when Jesus calms the storm, or Jesus walks on water. This is what we see. We see all this. This is the Jesus. We see these things happening. And then we see him feeding the 5,000. So we're seeing miracles. Jesus defying nature. Jesus calming nature. Then one of my favorite pieces of scripture, where the woman's been bleeding for 12 years and she would probably be called unclean, dirty, maybe a sinner, because she's been bleeding for 12 years. There's something wrong with her. And then Jesus says the most affirming, most beautiful words over her. Daughter, your faith has made you well. She's never heard someone call her daughter, or such a term of affection or endearment. And that's what Jesus says to her. And that's what we see. We get to see what Jesus doing this, okay? So then we should get to a point, and we're looking at the scriptures on a general basis. We look at the scriptures and say, surely this man is the Son of God. But then I wanted to make it even more personal and say, okay, fine, we look at scriptures, the Gospels, and we get a general Christian view of what Jesus has done, and we make a general Christian response. But what about you and I? What is the personal thing? What have you seen Jesus do in this Holy Week, in your life up to this moment, up to this point? What have you seen Jesus do? And maybe I thought of some things, how we have seen Jesus in our life. Maybe he's given us strength at a time where we really need strength, and the strength of Jesus was so evident in our lives. Maybe a peace. I'm just looking at a butterfly flying there. That's really beautiful. I hope it comes into the screen. Nature does what it wants. It's beautiful. I've been noticing, a sidetrack, noticing such beautiful things of nature, butterflies, birds, hearing birds that I don't normally hear, seeing birds that I don't normally hear, even on a jog or a walk or just outside, like little birds jumping in the foliage. It's just beautiful. Back to what I was saying. I've noticed a peace that I have. I don't know what's going on. Sometimes I get frustrated and I get angry and look what's happening and I'm not sure. But generally, I have this peace of God, a peace that transcends understanding. The world tries to give some sort of peace, but Jesus isn't. I think it's John 14. I give peace not as the world gives. I give some different kind of peace. It's peace that transcends understanding. I like it. I combine Philippians 4 there too, by the way. And then maybe Jesus has given you a purpose. Maybe you've kind of felt lost in directionless, and then Jesus comes and says, this is your purpose. This is your calling. This is where I'm leading you. That's exciting, right? And then I kind of think of John 10, verses 10. Jesus says, I've come to give you life and life to the full, and life to the full. Or in other versions, I've come to give you abundant life. Maybe that's what we need, or that's what we've longed for, is this abundant life that Jesus wants to give us. And maybe Jesus has given us a new experience. My life with Jesus is so much different, so different. It's full, it's abundant. I see things differently. And that's speaking about seeing things differently. Being a Christian, being a follower of Jesus, you have a different perspective. You hear conversations differently. You see the world differently. You notice things differently. And it's almost like I think every person lives in a 3-dimensional world. But when we give our lives to Jesus, it's like this 4th dimension, this 5th dimension, 6th. We begin to see life from a different way. I think that's one of my favorite things about being a Christian, just perspective. You see people differently, you see life differently, situations differently. And then I thought of maybe with Jesus we've experienced the forgiveness. We know the central to Christian faith is the cross and Jesus' sacrifice. Jesus' death happens on Good Friday. It happens tomorrow in the Christian calendar. And Jesus' death, we are forgiven. We are set. Forget the forgiveness. We are set free from our sins, our addictions, the things that haunt us, the things that bind us. With forgiveness of Jesus, we get this freedom, and also this freedom to not worry about opinion, to not worry about the world, to be free. I picture that beautiful freedom, just not being anxious or bound by that stuff, and like almost freedom, like you could look at the moon and just like sing to the moon. I don't know, that's a picture of freedom I have. But then, in conclusion, I want to say, this Easter, will you take all the evidence, take all the the stuff you know of Jesus, and will you say, like the Roman Centurion in Mark 15, verse 39, surely this man is the Son of God? Will you look at Jesus, and your one line of worship would be, surely Jesus, you are the Son of God? Thanks for tuning in.